Hi, welcome to episode 4 of our Library TBR challenge. This is one I've been running with my patrons for the last 3 months, and we have 2 months left to go in the challenge. And I've been doing great with my goals for the challenge. I want to read through all of the books that I have on hold because I let them sit there for months, sometimes years at a time without checking things out. Maybe it's not quite that bad. I want to continue doing a couple of random draws from my extensive wish list to enable me to pick up things that I probably wouldn't have picked up anytime soon anyway. And I've found some cool ones so far during this challenge. And finally, I just want to get more intentional with how I'm using my library. It seems like such an afterthought now. I used to use my library first before I would buy books. I'd vet them using free copies, and then if they were 5 stars, I'd bring them home. We are well away from that habit, but I'd kind of like to start getting back to it. Anyway, at the end of my last video, I had finished 8 out of 10 holds, and because that marked the end of that specific quarter, I'm wiping this slate clean. I have 10 more holds. 2 of them are carryovers from last month, but I didn't want to get it confusing. So we'll see how many of the 10 books I have on hold that I can read before the end of this quarter, or 2 months rather. It's really confusing. I'm switching over to a 4-month at a time challenge from here on out after this one so that there won't be any voting on extending the challenge, because it's already confusing enough how I'm doing things. To add in an extension, possibly, or maybe not, and it also makes things really hard for me to plan. In any case, let me give you a rundown of the books that are now on hold, the ones that I'm hoping to read. Even though I'm doing audio copies at the library, I still own a lot of these books, but I don't want to pay extra money for an Audible credit, so that's why the library comes in quite handy. But we're getting into summer. I want to do some summer fun reading, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I'm told that if you like Emily Henry, this is a really good one to pick up next. And as it happens, I also would like to get to Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. So I think both of these are going to be a lot of fun. The wait list on this one, like when I started out, there was 450 people in line ahead of me. I've moved up the line to about like 380, but I think I'm probably going to end up having to do a physical read of this one. We'll see. It'll be like the last thing that I get to, probably. So we'll see if over the next 2 months they buy extra copies or if people just like turn them in a little earlier. It's a Reese Witherspoon pick, so that right there is your problem. This one, I'm at like 82. It's also a several month wait, so everybody is on the library romance train, and I'm probably going to end up buying that one as well. But wishful thinking, I've got it on hold for the moment. I also put not only Inheritance Games, which is by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It's one of the ones I didn't get around to during last month, but the next 2 on hold as well. Now, I'm first in line for this one. These 2, like a several month wait as well. Like, what's the point in having a library card if you can't even get the books that you want to read ASAP? But it's not like there aren't like literally hundreds of other ones on there I can pick from in the meantime. I just really want to read those, but I don't want to pay for them. So again, we're doing the waiting game. But also from last month, Disquiet Gods by Christopher Rocchio, book 6 in the Sun Eater series. This one I'm first in line for, and the only reason I haven't checked it out so far is that it's kind of a lengthy one, and I just don't think I'm gonna have, I haven't had time to pick it up. But by the end of this quarter, I definitely would like to, especially if none of my other reads are coming in. Also, I'm in line for The Devils. My library doesn't have that many copies yet, but I'm at least under 20 in line. And if I am ready to read this before my copy becomes available, I'm just gonna buy the audio version. But I am so excited from this book. Top 3 favorite authors. I wasn't gonna start this one because I thought, you know, new series, it's gonna be a while before the next one comes out. I waste a lot of time rereading things. It's worth it for my favorite authors, so I'm gonna try to hit this one before the end of, well, the next 2 months, but the end of the year for sure. My next up in the Animorph series, book 26, The Attack. I've just been slowly working my way through the audio versions. I read these so many times as a kid, and it has been a long time since I've done a true full read through of the whole thing. And now they have audiobooks out, so cool. I can listen to them on my commute. I also have What in the World by Leanne Morgan. I've seen her Netflix stand-up and a whole bunch of different video clips and stuff on YouTube, and I love her so much. She's so funny, And I find her life fascinating. Like, she always knew she wanted to be a stand-up comedian. And I want to hear more about her background and how she just kept chasing her dreams and being consistent, and finally she got her break. Like, it's really cool. Also, Secrets of Adulthood by Gretchen Rubin. This is a 1-hour audiobook. I started out 90th in line and now I'm like 3rd. So I'm going to get this thing pretty soon. No idea what it's about, but I saw it was a new release from her, and she's one of my nonfiction gurus, so I thought it would be fun. I think it's just like a compilation of little tips and tricks and stuff. Compilation of wisdom and quotes and whatnot, but we'll see. And then last, but certainly not least, because it's the one that I am picking up first for the challenge, Definitely Dead by Charlaine Harris. There wasn't a hold on this one. It was available immediately, and happy me. I forget how good these books are until I dive back in, and this woman's writing is pure magic. She gets away with stuff in these stories that would not work if told by any other author. Things that are so tropey that they're cringeworthy, but somehow they work. And then the plot, you're like, what the heck is happening? But she sells it. And then she'll take like 20 pages to do this reintroduction and recap of things that happened in past books. And instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're getting info dumps right now, you're just eating up every word because of the way she does it. She's brilliant. Oddly, of all of the authors that I've read, Charlaine Harris just continues to surprise me and excite me with all of the cool things she's doing with writing. And it's just such an unassuming thing, right? Paranormal urban fantasy. But yes, this is book 6 in the Sookie Stackhouse series, and I've been kind of saving them for a rainy day, but I'm like, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're just diving into the things that we're really excited to read. So enjoying this one so far, about 2 or 3 chapters in, not very far, but it'll be good. And then next up, I need to pick my random draw component for this month. I would like to know a little bit ahead of time what I'm reading. I used a random number generator, and I did a screen recording for you, even though I know you'll take me at my word. I have 1,797 books in my wish list, and the 3 numbers that I got were 207, 784, and 1052. And the corresponding books are The Secret History of Sharks by John Long. I actually looked up to see how recently this book was published. 2023, which I think is recent enough to have a lot of the cool new science that's going on around studying sharks. Because a lot has changed from even like 10 years ago when we got that blue planet, like that amazing sharks jumping up from the depths to grab seals and stuff. I love wildlife, and I love learning new things about animals, and I feel like the science on sharks and what we know about them has come a long way, even in the last decade. And this one looked particularly interesting because it's kind of anecdotal. It's told in a literary nonfiction thing where you kind of bounce around between like the history of sharks and a cool other seemingly non-related things pulled in to make a point. Like, I think it's going to be great. So that one looked like a lot of fun. And incidentally, my third pick, one book down from that, was a book I have on my shelves called The Devil's Teeth, which I have not picked up simply because it was written so long ago and I don't even know if it would be relevant with the science anymore. Isn't that so cool? We live in an age where we are discovering things at such a rapid rate that things you thought you knew 10 years ago became like obsolete. Anyway, that's number 1. For number 207, number 784 was Stolen Focus by Johann Hari. Of course, we have a productivity / digital minimalism book on my list. I have so many of them in the lineup. This one looked interesting. The author had a lot of the same troubles I do with trying to white knuckle yourself from picking up your phone all day long, and he goes into the reasons why it's so difficult to resist, and the attention economy is such a strong, powerful thing, and you're just one person against many trying to grab your attention. But what I like is apparently he went to different cultures and kind of talked to the experts of the planet on the attention economy and figured out exactly why people are so susceptible, and promises action steps at the end to help you get yourself out of that cycle. So I'm always interested in this kind of thing. That one could be a fun one. And number 1052, Bird by Anne Lamott. I am very interested in this book. It's a literary nonfiction about the craft of writing. Back when I was heavy into the writing scene, a very close friend of mine loved this book. This was like his Bible for everything writing. And I just remember him talking about what Anne Lamott calls the importance of the shitty first drafts. It's like, just get your thoughts on paper. But it's supposed to have a lot of techniques on how to overcome some of the weirder roadblocks that writers face, and I think that sounds really cool. I've got so many projects going right now that getting back into the writing scene is something I would like to do, but it's also something that I can see like after I finish a whole bunch of other steps and projects first. But I'm dipping my toes in a little bit, and that would be a fun book to read. And literary nonfiction, you know it's going to be written well. So I've heard nothing but high praise for this author. Those are my selections. I've decided this month I'm going to put it to a vote and let my patrons pick. So patrons, vote on the one you'd like to see me read. You can't pick a wrong book. I would be happy with any of these. And if we end up with a tie, then I will pick the one that is most in line with my mood at the moment. And I will give you an update when I know which one they're going to pick. Good morning. I have an update for you. So my first library hold read of the month, Definitely Dead by Charlene Harris. From 2 chapters in, I knew I was totally absorbed by this book. It was so freaking good. Just as good as the other ones before. And you know, the first book I read, I only gave it a 3-star when I read it initially because it's grittier than most urban fantasies. I don't know what it is about the descriptions of the crimes, but it made me very uncomfortable. And I don't know if I gave it a better rating on my reread, but I tell you what, the rest of the book's scents have just gotten better and better, and I don't think there's anything that I could describe about the storyline that would convince you it's any different than anything else, but it's just the way it was written was so good. I'm very excited. The challenge had me reading this one. And then I've been inching my way along The Raven Scholar. This isn't a library book, as I mentioned, so it's not technically for the challenge, but I'd figure I'd give you updates because I'm not probably going to talk about it much in any other video. I am, I don't know, approaching the halfway point of this one. It started out really well. I was super excited, but ever since then, it's been fading a little bit. I even considered a DNF at one point. I was prepared for a really robust fantasy novel, something akin to The Will of the Many by James Islington. Promise of competition, really good class dynamics, things like that. This is like a poor man's Will of the Many. It's very thinly done. The characters, their behaviors are not believable, especially the king. We bounce around a lot. We don't spend a lot of time with something. The competition itself is not fully realized. So if you're a reader who can take the good ideas from a book and your imagination fills in the blanks, this will work a lot better for you. I can't do that. I need it to spell it out for me. And it's also reading a little immature. And a lot of the things just don't make sense. Like, it's not rich. There's no depth to anything that's going on. And this one girl is in charge of so much stuff. Like, she has her hands in too many piles and she's seemingly a nobody. It doesn't make any sense. But I am generally a lot more critical of books like this, and I know it would probably fit the bill for a lot of people. I mean, take the ratings on Goodreads. Over 1,000 reviews, and at last time I looked, it was over 4.5. So it's just me. I ended up not DNFing it because I thought, you know, what's the difference between an immature storyline here and the spirit animal stuff that I just read clearly meant for middle grade? Like, why was I able to turn off my critical mind for those, but not for these? It was high expectations going in. So I toned down my expectations a bit and just decided to go with it and experience the story without as much criticism, because I've already decided it's not my favorite. And from there, it's gotten a little bit better. One more rant though, like, it's a competition for a throne and there's no structure whatsoever. Like, how are we picking? Oh, it's just these weird random games come up with by each individual house, and it's too basic. Anyway, yeah, really turning off my critical mind for that. But I am putting this one down because I picked it up on a whim and hadn't really planned on progressing it much this week. I just had a couple days between finishing the Charlene Harris book and then picking up the next library hold, which happens to be a patron buddy read. Now the thing is when I put this thing on hold, I was like 97th in line, so it was a several month wait, and there was no way it was going to be ready in time for the buddy read. So do I get credit for reading a library book hold even though I had to take it off hold and just purchase it? You be the judge. I'm counting it because it was my intention to read it as a library hold, and if it had become available on time, But a buddy read is more important to me than some arbitrary rule, so that's where we're at. But Blood Over Bright Haven, dark academia setting, honestly probably has a lot of the same vibes as The Raven Scholar, but I'm hoping I like it more. I'm very excited for this one. I don't know anything about it going in. I love it when I go into books blind, at least ones that have come highly recommendable or whatever. But I am going to be reading this beautiful signed copy from the Broken Binding, and I'm a little nervous, but like, why buy books if you don't read them? So I'm gonna be doing the audiobook in this one in tandem, and I can't wait. I will update you. Oh yeah, and my hold for book 26 in the Animorph series, The Attack, came in, and I'll probably do this as my commute audiobook, so we'll see if this one's any better. I thought I hadn't remembered a lot about it, but then I flipped open, and this is usually like a scene directly out of the book, and it was a weird one. Let's put it that way. So we'll see how it goes. I have some updates for you. So first off, the book that I was reading that wasn't actually for the library challenge, The Raven Scholar, I made it to about the 40% mark, and there are so many things that I want to read right now that I'm kind of forcing myself through this one. It's not bad. It's entertaining, but I'm like, why aren't I focusing on the things that I'm actually like riveted, like cannot wait to get back to these stories, pick them up whenever I have a spare chance. And this has been kind of like turn it on a 5-minute timer on the audiobook before bedtime. But yeah, not the best. So I've decided to do something that I view as a little irresponsible for myself and completely take it off my reading right now, set it aside completely, and focus on other things. And those other things happen to be Blood Over Bright Haven. I'm approaching the 33% mark, and this one has been amazing. In fact, it's very comparable to The Raven Scholar in the sense of like the type of story and my expectations for the things that I wanted out of it. Only this one started out with a bang. Like if you've read Sword of Kaijin and remember that moment when everything turned and you were just so in it and it was like breathtaking, the very first chapter of this one felt like that. It was like such a short amount of time, but suddenly you're incredibly invested in these people. And then from there, the story has just been magic-centric, so much fun, very detailed spell work, really celebrating that aspect of the story. Like, I feel like this one was written for me. I'm eating it up. And there is a trend I'm noticing of whenever there's an academic book like this involving a female main character, they're somewhat unlikable. My phone just popped up asking me if I wanted to change a setting to enable more focus. Like, that's an irony for you. Anyway, character in here, a little bit unlikable. As I've mentioned before, that doesn't bother me at all. I tend to really like those type of characters, but looking for, like I've read so many lately that it seems like, okay, well, here we go again. But this one has been good so far. I have some theories on where the story is going, but even if it doesn't go that direction, I think I'm still really gonna like it. So this one has been a success. And then on my commutes, one of my library holds came in, number 26, The Attack from the Animorph series. And as it happens, even though 25 was ghostwritten, she came back to it for this one. And I remember being weirded out by this book because it was very atypical. It was weird sci-fi. And when I read it, I was not prepared for that type of stuff. This time around, I'm like, wow, like the world building is cool. I loved it. I thought for a middle grade weird sci-fi, it was excellent. It expanded on kind of an alien race that you don't get a lot of reference to. And when I first started this one, I didn't realize that Applegate hadn't done a ghostwriter for this one as well. And I was just marveling at how exceptional the writing was from the very beginning, which I thought was kind of cool, and then found out it actually was her. So that one was a high success. Very excited. I've got the next one on hold. I'll read it whenever it's available. And then a library hold came in for Secrets of Adulthood by Gretchen Rubin. This is a 1-hour audiobook. This is a woman who for years has just been writing down little words of wisdom. I've done that too, where you just like have a book of quotes and collections of things that you'd like to remember but don't want to lose. Well, she has taken all of these things, like her favorite ones, and compiled them into this book. And so far, I could take it or leave it. There's been a couple of things that really good little snippets of advice, but as a whole, I'm finding it kind of a weird hodgepodge of things. The narratives that she's putting in there don't really land with a point, and then there'll be some words of wisdom. She called them something specific, and affirmations isn't the right word, but it started with an A. It was something like that, kind of like personal mantras, something very specific. Aphorisms? Yeah, that was it. But as with everything Gretchen Rubin, just hearing her talk inspires this level of creativity into myself that I don't tap into often. I get so inspired listening to her works because this woman is doing the stuff that I would like to be doing, and she thinks about things a lot of the same way that I do, like definitely an overanalyzer. For inspiration quality, great, but it's only an hour long, so if it even sounds remotely interesting, I'd say go for it. You're not going to be out a lot of time if you don't like it. And then now's when I get a little real with ya. I do have a whole bunch of books on hold at the library, and my intention is to read them, but my plans are not reflecting that, right? So the next thing I want to pick up is the next Ender book, but I don't have a hold on it because it's available immediately, so I don't even think it made the initial list that I talked about at the beginning of this video. But that's the one next on the lineup. And then after putting Raven Scholar down, I probably will have time for a couple more things by the end of the month, but I was browsing some ARCs, and the new Maggie the Undying, This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me book became available as a digital ARC, and I snagged it. It's not what I should be reading to complete this challenge, but you know, the curation of things online is something I enjoy watching, but it's also something that I am hyper aware of, how people present these best versions of themselves and their processes. And I find most often I end up relating most to the people who show me like what's really going on in their lives. It sets the bar a little lower, like you're not aspiring to this perfection anymore. So this is me picking up an ARC in the middle of my Library TBR challenge, actively choosing to fail at what this whole video is supposed to be about. Does it bother me? Of course it does. I'm a perfectionist and a completionist, but do I want my life to be a slave to some arbitrary challenge or an cool idea for a video series? Also no. But this one is a physical read, which means I won't be able to pick it up other than like right before bed. So what I'll end up doing is, this has been my before bed book plus like whenever I've been at work or whatever, and I will finish this one out probably within the next week or so. And then from there, before bed book will be this one, and I can probably finish it before the end of the month, and then I'll still pick up the Ender's book and then read that one like on commutes and stuff and see what else comes in. I'll probably only have time for one more read. Oh, and I need to do my challenge read. So here's another weird thing. My patrons voted. The book that I will be focusing on from Random Draw is Stolen Focus. As it happens, there's a 4-week wait on it, which puts me well outside the time frame for filming this particular video. I got a lot of first world problems here, but you never know, it might come in early. I do also need to incorporate that one somehow. Nonfiction's really easy to fit in here and there because I feel like I can do it in like 5-minute snippets without stressing too much or having to really concentrate, which is opposite than what you would think. But my brain latches onto that nonfiction stuff like it's candy, so I'm able to process things a lot more quickly, whereas fantasy, I really gotta be patient and in the right mood. Anyway, that's my loose plan. It's about halfway through the month right now. I think a good goal would be to get through at least 3 more library books total, the Random Draw one, plus 2 others, so we'll see what pops up. But I tell you what, Disquiet Gods, that poor book, is not getting read this month. It's like a 32-hour audiobook that would basically take up from now until the end of the month. I also feel like what I'm doing right now is rebelling against structure, which is something that happens after I put myself on a no starting new series regiment for months and months and get really strict about what I'm doing, which it's helpful, it serves its purpose, but now I'm like, this is the fallout, is that I starting like a whole bunch of new things. But if I don't add any more in, I think I should be okay. And This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Alona Andrews will probably feature in a Read Burn Horde episode, particularly because I don't think I'll have it completely done by the end of this vlog. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the new setting. This is my creative space at the moment, and I do a ton of stuff. I am constantly working on some sort of creative thing. My favorite thing is cross stitch. I've got this really cool rainbow frog thing that I did a few years ago, but I dabble in all sorts of stuff. But I decided that I needed some more focus on the things that were the most important, and memory keeping and documenting my kids' childhoods has been my number one priority. So right now I've got this massive like scrapbooking setup, and I am slowly working my way through the backlog because my oldest child just turned 9, and I didn't do very well at scrapbooking the first 3 or 4 years of his life. Maintained the photos pretty well, but didn't get around to the scrapbooking. So set some high goals for myself with that, and I'm going to be spending a lot more time in this room over the next few months and listening to audiobooks while I work on that creative project. Anyway, I'll check in next week. I'm hoping I'll be a little less scattered then, a little more focused, but yeah, and also so we'll see how it goes. I finished a couple of books for the challenge, and it just, like, within the last couple hours occurred to me that this video series would be a lot more interesting if I would include a running tally of the number of books I've completed for the challenge and maybe, like, line them up behind me. So I'll work on that. In any case, I finished Blood Over Brighthaven. I will gush more about it in the Read Burn Hoard video, but oh my gosh, solid 5-star. This one had incredible momentum, dark academia, like really intricate spell work, great characters, and just the kind of writing that absorbs you completely. I thought it was superb. The very first chapter hooked me, and then I wasn't sure. I was like too scared to get totally invested because what if it lets me down? But then a turning point happened around chapter 10 and I was goner. Like, absolutely love this book. So reading this one marks another completion in the library challenge, and even though my library didn't have a copy available on time for me, I'm still counting it, which we'll get to that. And then I also finished What in the World by Leanne Morgan. It was a hold that became available randomly right as I had finished Blood Over Brighthaven, so I thought, perfect, check it out, and bless this woman's heart, this book brought me so much joy and comfort in the middle of one of the worst fevers I've had in the last 5 years. Instead of lying there suffering, I was able to just zone out to her book and enjoyed it thoroughly. I would have liked it anyway. I love her stand-up. The book had a lot of her stand-up stories and components in it, but was balanced more with her, like, the darker side of life type of thing. Not that dark, you know, but real life, you know, everybody's got stuff, and I just find her so interesting, so endearing, and funny. So the audiobook that I did, read by the author herself, I highly recommend. I'm not much of a biography person. Lately, when I've been super interested in a person and they have a new biography out, I've been just, like, picking it up on a whim. I've only done 2 so far, and I don't think it's going to be an ongoing trend, but I liked her enough, and her story was so cool. She didn't really get her break in stand-up until she was 55, and I found that so inspiring because she decided to invest in herself, but she never lost sight of the things that matter most, and things worked out for her. Loved that one. It's so hard to rate nonfiction because I read a lot of high fantasy stuff that I absolutely love, and it's like my soul. For a nonfiction to get a 5-star, it has to change my life in some ways, and I'm not sure if this one will. So let's say a 4-star, but let's say 4-star plus because, oh my gosh, what an enjoyable read. My random draw book, Stolen Focus, became available, so I checked it out. Give you more updates on that when I actually finish it. But it was like a 5-week wait, and these long wait times probably wouldn't be such a problem if I had more holds to spare, but it seems like every single hold that I have is on something that'll be several months out, so I either have to read something that's so old that it has, or not interesting that it has no holds on it, or be willing to wait for months. And so I thought, okay, I hear from book people all the time that, oh yeah, I just go get another library card from a different district or whatever, and then I'm able to utilize, I just have to pay a fee, and then I can utilize both libraries. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. So I went to the other town near me, went to their library district, and was like, okay, how do I get another card? And they're like, oh, where are you from? Are you trying to, like, what are you trying to do? Like, well, ideally, I would like access to more online titles and whatnot, but apparently in Southern Utah, the Beehive Library Consortium is our digital library hub, and it encompasses many, many counties all across the state. So it's this massive thing, and that is why the holds are so long for a lot of these books, because like it's like a statewide thing. What am I supposed to do? Go to Vegas? So that explains to me why the demand is so high, and also the thing about 2 different lanes. Like if you put a hold on a book that your library, your actual branch doesn't actually own, you have to wait longer. But on the flip side, like new titles like The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, like I was so excited when I saw there were like 30 people in my area who was reading this book. I'm like, oh, my people, they're around me somewhere. No, it's statewide. There are only 30 people in the entire state who want access to that book. It's a good thing for my soul that this digital age we live in, I can connect with book people across the planet, because finding my people locally just has not been working for me as well. Anyway, I'm discovering a few things about the library through this project that are really eye-opening for me. Having to wait several months on a title that I'm really excited about completely kills the momentum, and it makes me feel like I can't read the books when I want to. But I'm trying to be conservative and cost-effective and cheap, essentially, and utilize where I can so that I don't have to spend extra money on it. But I mean, with all the books that I've been allowing myself to buy lately, it's like, at what point do you prioritize the experience over a little bit of extra money? That kind of economic analysis is something that everybody has to do personally. But I feel like with these really high priority titles that I would actually want to pick up right away, like I did with Blood Over Brighthaven, just ignore the library completely and go straight for it. But another thing that kills me is when the holds are on hold for so long and then you finally get a chance to read the book, the last thing you want to do is have to buy it after you're only 75% through it after 3 weeks. Like, so the pressure I feel when a library book comes in to read that book faster than I feel at a natural pace is a big problem for me. So I'm learning that the library is wonderful for these nonfiction and really random, obscure titles from my wish list that don't have long holds. Like, well, my video cut off, and it's like a week later. I had to go through the process of editing the last clip that I did and figuring out where it cut off and what I didn't get a chance to say. Anyway, library holds are really good for those one-off titles, random draw component, really obscure things, and a lot of really older things. But they are not as good for new releases that come with a long waiting list, or some of these science fiction fantasy tomes that are over 600 pages. Like, I never can get them read in time. I think I would save myself a lot of stress just by leaning towards buying a little bit more. What I used to do is use the library to vet out new books. So check it out, read it first. If I like it more than a 4-star, I usually add it to my collection. I've not been able to do that in years, and I think the long hold times are partially responsible. When there's a several-month wait, right now the turnover on hardcovers, they go out of print so quickly that I could actually miss out on buying a new hardcover if I were to wait for the library to get its act together and to get the book in on time. Oh well, at the very least, it's allowing me to go through a lot of the backlist series that I've been really into lately without having to spend a lot of money on it. So it's really good for those long series like Discworld and the Sookie Stackhouse series that I'm currently reading. And as I'm discovering in my Read Burn hoard, there are a plethora of series that I have sitting on my shelves that are also available at the library at no wait. So I digress. I finished my random pick, Stolen Focus, today, and it was a good read, really interesting. Started to beat me really over the head with its message by the end, which needed, okay, granted. What impressed me the most about this book was how well researched the author was. Not only did he research the things, but he went to the sources themselves. So he traveled all over the world, meeting these people who are experts in the attention economy, many of whom I've read books from. But what I liked about this book, up to this point, most of the things I've read have been structured how-tos from people who seemingly have it all together. Whereas this was very much an exploration of what it's like to be caught up, addicted to your devices from someone who's aware of it but also struggling with it. So it made it quite relatable in a sense. Unfortunately, there weren't any tips and tricks on how to get away from it. this was more an exposure piece and to get you thinking along these lines, and honestly a call to action. Like, all of the significant changes we've made in our world, we've done because we've refused to settle for how things are. I don't know that I'm quite there yet personally. I'm still trying to wage my own battle on it, but good food for thought. And I came up with an epiphany, a new way to moderate my own usage. And honestly, one of the reasons I love most about reading these books is that it gets me in the right mindset to make changes, because I've fallen back into it, especially being sick, right? Like, you really don't have any willpower when you're sick. So informationally, if you just want to be made aware of the issues around how addictive your technology use is, this is a good place to start. If you would like just little hints of that, but actually like actionable ways to improve your life in that regard and to make kind of digital stuff work for you as best you can, I still like Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. So it just depends on which side of the coin you're on. I like both. I think they support each other. But again, don't know how to rate nonfiction. If I'm thinking of it compared to my favorite science fiction fantasy books, I would much rather have read those than read this one. And I didn't walk away from this with more than just a little bit of inspiration. It's definitely not life-changing. Maybe it would have been had it been the first one in the subject that I'd read. But I think I'm coming away maybe a 3 out of 5 star. Maybe it's a bit unfair to say that there wasn't practical applications, because each new person that he introduced who's an expert in the field, he did give a few tips and tricks on some of the things that they suggest and some of the concerns they have. So that was mixed in there as well. It was decently well-rounded, but yeah, I don't know, maybe 3.5 out of 5 stars. Not rating things bugs me, but this one really doesn't lend itself to an accurate rating anyway. But yet another one read for the challenge, which I'm really excited for, and my challenge book specifically. My next step is to go through my footage and figure out how many books I've read for the challenge so far, and then next time hopefully I'll come up with a tally when I finish my next book. So I ran a tally, and to my absolute shock and surprise, I have read 27 individual titles for this challenge so far. 27! Granted, many of these are short, but that's still so many more books than I thought. I was feeling like I was a little behind in things, possibly because a lot of what I've been reading I don't actually own on my shelves. So I remembered Blood Over Bright Haven and a couple of these bigger titles, and I think the fact that I didn't have more of those on the list is why I felt like I hadn't read a lot. But holy cow, I have just been plowing through some of these nonfiction things, and I did the entire Spirit Animal series. So if we go by page count, then it's probably closer to around 15 books, but still, that's stellar. So 27 books in counting. I don't think I'm ever going to go without tracking completion like this again, because this is incredibly gratifying. Now my favorite segment to this particular challenge, looking at new releases and new acquisitions that my library has made that I am adding to my wish list. Some decent ones. The first one is called Fired Up by Shannon Watts, and I almost checked it out immediately. When life feels like a checklist of tedious responsibilities is one of the things I read about it. Yeah, that's me. Right now, I'm kind of into this phase of life where I'm trying to simplify things, I'm trying to slow down, I'm trying to embrace my feminine energy, all of these things. This book seems right in line with that kind of stuff, and reading stuff like that really helps me feel like I'm not alone and feeling overworked. One that immediately caught my attention, Happy Writer by Marissa Meyer, and I hesitated there because I thought, is that the same Marissa Meyer that wrote the Lunar Chronicles? And yes it is. So she's pretty prolific. One of the few YA series that I actually thought was very well done. I hate retellings, but this one, it was like Cyborg Cinderella. It was done well enough that it sold me, and I liked the series as a whole. So yeah, I'd read a book by her on becoming a good, sustainable writer. Awesome. Exodus by Peter Hamilton. I ordered a copy from the Broken Binding and have had my eye on that author in general. I just haven't been able to force myself to start new series. That's a complete opposite to where I was at a year ago, but I'm finding I'm doing so well with that incomplete series challenge that I don't want to start new things. But instead of Pandora's Star, which I am highly interested in, but it's really, really long, I might do this one because it's a one and done. The next one's not even out yet. I'm assuming this is a series, but that'll be nice. Why We Remember by Sharon Raghunath, unlocking memory's power to hold on to what matters most, on par with current things that I'm interested in right now. I like mind stuff. I think the brain is incredible, and a whole book specifically on memory sounds fascinating, so that got added. Bee Speaker by Adrian Tchaikovsky, part of the Dogs of War series. Have not started this one yet, but I hear Dogs of War is so superb, like fan favorite from other people like me who have just devoured as much Tchaikovsky as possible. So anytime a new release comes out in a series I'm excited about but haven't started yet, it like bumps it higher on my to-be-read list. So theoretically, might be able to get to that one by the end of the year. The Micro Stress Effect by Rob Cross and Karen Dillon. How the little things pile up. It's like the acquisitions team at the library did a profile on me. Another one of these therapist turned writer books. And How Does That Make You Feel by Joshua Fletcher. So kind of a behind the scenes of therapy stuff. There was one a couple months ago. Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, and that one looks really interesting. So both of those might get binge read soon because I missed my calling. I love psychoanalyzing people, and I love getting behind the whys of motive and why people do things and behave certain ways. It's fascinating to me. And I do the same thing in books and movies too. But I'm also, I think, too much of an empath to be effective at it as a profession. Like, I would be sobbing alongside my clients. Just anytime I even see someone crying on the television, it just gets me. So, but that one looked fun. Big Goals by Carolyn Adams Miller. This might be too much in a direction that I don't want to go. I don't really want to set these big lofty goals. I'm more focused on the day-to-day, making that enjoyable. And I do have some grand goals, but I always get inspired when I read books like that, so ergo. The Spy Ring by Sarah Beth Durst, an author I really appreciate. Every single thing she's coming out with looks wildly interesting, and she's responsible for one of my all-time favorite standalone books, Race the Sands. Superb book. This author writes about things that I wish I had done first. So I really love her stuff. I cannot wait to read more, just haven't made time for it, but here's another little one from her. She wrote The Spell Shop, so if you've seen that one floating around, this is also her. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Got a personal recommendation for this one, and so I'm really interested in it. I'm getting kind of burnt out on romance fantasy. I'm not really sure if that's what this is, but it seems like it's in the same vein. I only have the bandwidth for about one of those per 6 months or so, and I've already done 2 this year. But the cover definitely has my attention, so I'll get to that one eventually. Green Gold by Sarah Alabak and Monique E. Parsons. It's about the history of avocados. This one would have to get picked for a random challenge. I don't feel an incredible draw to read this one, but it would be funny if it popped up for random draw. Like, here's 10 hours you didn't know you needed to waste. And The Busybody Book Club by Freya Sampson. I haven't really gotten into these cute, cozy mystery things, but they've been kind of on the periphery. So I'm doing cozy fantasy right now, and I've got so many things going on, but eventually, I think a fun little set of mysteries mixed in with some classic staple mysteries that I inherited from my grandmother. Eventually I'll get on a mystery kick, but right now is not that time. But that one would be a fun one for random draw. So that's pretty much it. My library seriously makes it sound like I am well more into nonfiction than I currently am. So all you see now is just the 1 or 2 new releases every month for science fiction fantasy that also is acquired by my library. So there were only 2 or 3 this time. But the nonfiction stuff, there's just so much being written right now, and I'm devouring it like it's candy. But it's still only like maybe I was going to say it was like maybe 20% of my reading, but I think it's crept up there. I think I am consuming nonfiction at a pretty significant rate now, maybe 30% of my reading. I'm just so inspired. Anyway, let me know if you've read any of these new acquisitions and if I should bump any of them up on my TBR. I finished my 28th title for the challenge, Ender in Exile. This is a direct continuation to Ender's Game. Well, I use the term loosely because you have to have read the Shadow sequence, those 4 books, before you dive into this one, or else this one will give you complete spoilers. So chronologically, it's not a direct continuation. But it is the first time we've seen Ender since Ender's Game, if you are going chronologically. And I was kind of selling this one as this is the story we all wanted, as opposed to Speaker for the Dead or Xenocide and whatnot. But I said all that with hopes and dreams for what this book would be, rather than for what it was. I think this would have been a lot stronger as a novella. Cut out a whole bunch of crap and get right to the point. There was a lot of really good resolution in here from things that happened in the shadow sequence, as well as moving the character Ender forward a little bit in his journey. Whether or not I think it's a great addition to the series is yet to be seen. It depends on how much it sets up for the next book, and it depends on what the next book was lacking that he felt the need to go back and write this one. But as is, probably my least favorite one that I've read so far, even though it had some redeeming moments. I'm 3 out of 5 star. Chronologically, next I have Shadows in Flight, so I'm looking forward to that one. But in the meantime, continuing to work my way through, and my 28th book for the challenge, which is rad. But that officially shuts me down for the month. I only have 2 days left, and I do not have time to read anything new. So we're gonna end it here. 1 more month to go in this challenge. I'm very pleased with my progress so far, and we'll see what kind of damage we can do next month. Thank you for watching with me. If I haven't mentioned it, my patrons get access to this video series a full quarter ahead of time from when it goes live on the main channel. So if you'd like to participate in real time, link to my Patreon is in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Bye.